you saw this. Tim Walz is now saying about Trump supporters, and forgive me, I'm just reading a quote from Tim Walz, "I think I could kick most of their ass."
Oh boy, he'd be in trouble.
Is there any way to know?
Well, he's a loser, you know, I mean, the guy's a loser. He lost an election. He played a part. You know, usually a vice president doesn't play a part, they say. I think Tim played a part. I think he was so bad that he hurt her. But she hurt herself, and Joe hurt them both. They didn't have a great group, but I would probably put him at the bottom of the group.
Have you heard that Biden wants to get back involved for Democratic politicians, fundraising and campaigning against your policies?
I hope so. I hope so.
Much like his Republican counterparts in Congress, Donald Trump is terrified of questions, confrontation, and really, the media at large. And of course he would be. Elon Musk is stealing FAA contracts and accessing our top-secret war documents, all while Donald Trump is carrying out an unlawful mass deportation plan. It is no surprise he is terrified of the press and their questions. But unfortunately for Trump, he had to face that fear today in an Oval Office press conference, where he just melted down when confronted by reporters, including reporters from the Fox propaganda outlet, about all the scandals that are breaking out. And of course, Republicans are running away from this right now. But Democrats are filling that void, like Tim Walz, who has been brutally calling out Donald Trump across the country, and so much so that Trump started off this presser by attacking him. So before we get into the meltdown from Trump, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. And like I said, Tim Walz really upset Trump, so let's listen to him first.
It is a mess. I do believe, though, that I've been given a platform, running and the privilege of running with Vice President Harris, given a platform to list folks up, and they are coming out. These are folks that are coming out. They're making their voices heard, and these members of Congress are going to dodge it. And Donald Trump doesn't have to stand in front of the voters again, but these folks do. And we need to make it clear that this cannot stand. And we'll challenge them on all fronts. We'll challenge them in the court of public opinion. We'll challenge them in the courts. It's simply not what America's founded on. Again, I go back to that previous story with the attorney and the absolute disregard for all rule of law and human rights. This is stuff that Americans need to pay attention. I'm an optimistic person, and I'm not trying to, to paint this too terribly, but I think we have to assume the very worst in everything that this administration does, and we need to prepare for it.
Right. We really do have to brace for the worst in this Trump administration. And we continue to see the worst every day. Just last night, with a leaked report from the New York Times about Elon Musk being able to access top-secret war plans, which Donald Trump was actually asked about later in this press conference that we'll get into, and his answer will absolutely shock you. But Tim Walz is clearly getting under Donald Trump's skin because, like I said, he responded to him right here.
I don't know if you saw this. Tim Walz is now saying about Trump supporters, and forgive me, I'm just reading a quote from Tim Walz, "I think I could kick most of their ass."
Oh boy, he'd be in trouble.
Is there any way to know?
Well, he's a loser, you know, I mean, the guy's a loser. He lost an election. He played a part. You know, usually a vice president doesn't play a part, they say. I think Tim played a part. I think he was so bad that he hurt her. But she hurt herself, and Joe hurt them both. They didn't have a great group, but I would probably put him at the bottom of the group.
Have you heard that Biden wants to get back involved for Democratic politicians, fundraising and campaigning against your policies?
I hope so. I hope so.
If anyone is the loser, Donald, it is clearly you. Tim Walz is a fighter. Tim Walz is an advocate. Tim Walz is not afraid of his voters. Tim Walz is not afraid to go out there and call you out. Even though I'm sure we are a couple of days away from Donald Trump threatening to jail or deport or to cut off all federal funding from Minnesota. But Tim Walz is unafraid of that. He has dealt with Donald Trump before, and he will eventually come out on top. And that is what we are seeing a lot right now. Sure, it seems like Donald Trump is way too powerful for anyone to combat, but Democrats are stepping up to call him out, and we have to continue to do so because it takes a while for the courts to catch up to our fight in the court of public opinion. And that is exactly what Donald Trump is so mad about when he's getting his unlawful orders struck down by judges.
People, we don't want him in our country. We can't let a judge say that he wants him. You know, he didn't run for president. He didn't get much more than 80 million votes. And we just can't let that happen. It'd be so bad for our country.
Donald Trump continues to talk about this overwhelming mandate that he won, which, as we've talked about on the show, is just such a complete lie. And I ask you, Donald, if you won such an overwhelming mandate, why did Democrats have to bail you out? Why were you potentially blaming them for the shutdown? Why can't you pass any of this unlawful agenda through Congress? Why are you trying to do it through the executive branch? Is it maybe because you are actively breaking the law in order to put as much power in the Oval Office as possible? Oh, that's it? Yeah, what a shock. And Donald Trump was asked about these disgusting and unlawful mass deportations, and his answer probably wouldn't surprise you.
It didn't happen.
Mr. President, do you think you have the authority, the power to round up people, deport them, and then you're under no obligation to a court to show the evidence against them?
Well, that's what the law says, and that's what our country needs, because we were, unfortunately, they allowed millions of people to come into our country, totally unvetted, totally unchecked. So you ought to ask, did he have the authority to allow millions of people? Did Biden have the authority to do something that's unthinkable?
Do you notice how things keep coming back to President Biden lately? I didn't hear a lot about President Biden in the first couple of weeks of the administration, but now that things are really falling apart for Donald Trump, he's always leaning on that crutch. He has no vision for the future. He doesn't care about anything or anyone but himself, but what he is always focused on is his vengeance. And I think he wants to go back to a time when, on the campaign trail, he could just yell and scream and shout and lie about Biden inflation or a terrible Biden economy. But now he is confronted with the fact that he is the one actually screwing things up, and it's making him furious. He has no one to blame but himself, and so he's losing his mind. And he is also really upset that he continues to get confronted about his illegal plan, like he was right here.
There are families from some of the people that were on those flights to El Salvador that claim that they're not criminals, they're not members of Agua, of MS-13. What can you tell them, and what guarantees can you give them that everyone in those planes were actual criminals, terrorists, as you said?
Well, I was told that they went through a very strong vetting process, and that that will also be continuing in El Salvador. And if there's anything like that, we would certainly want to find out. But these were a bad group. This was a bad group, and they were in bad areas, and they were with a lot of other people that were absolutely killers, murderers, and people that were really bad, with the worst records you've ever seen. And but we will continue that process, absolutely. We don't want to make that kind of a mistake.
Is the U.S. playing?
Donald Trump doesn't care that he is actively doing the thing that was claimed by him to be happening to him and the people around him, which is lawfare, the weaponization of the DOJ, and criminal prosecutions and persecutions of political opponents. This is what Donald Trump was constantly screaming and whining, and woe is me, about on the campaign trail, and now he's actually doing it, which should come as no surprise. Considering, as we always say, every Republican accusation is actually an admission of the truth about them. And the best example of that is the corruption that Trump always alleged against the Biden family, that is now actively playing out with Donald, Trump's first lady, and Elon Musk. And when he was asked about Elon's conflicts of interest, he actually kind of just said it.
Musk was going to be shown a 20 to 30 page presentation about a theoretical war plan against China. Why not just show it to Elon?
Because I don't want to show it to anybody. You know, you're talking about a potential war with China. Now, I deal with these people all the time, and I'm dealing with Pete, I'm dealing with these gentlemen on numerous different airplane purchases, and I think they're all going to be great. But I don't want other people seeing, anybody seeing potential war with China. We don't want to have a potential war with China, but I can tell you if we did, we're very well equipped to handle it. But I don't want to show that to anybody. But certainly you wouldn't show it to a businessman who is helping us so much. He's a great patriot. He's paying a big price for helping us cut costs, and he's doing a great job. He's finding tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. But I certainly wouldn't want, you know, Elon has businesses in China, and he would be susceptible perhaps to that.
I honestly cannot believe that Donald Trump just admitted that. Of course, Elon Musk has conflicts of interest, and I do believe the New York Times reporting that he is accessing these top-secret documents. I don't think Donald Trump actually follows the day-to-day of what Elon is doing. I don't think he wants the liability. I don't think he wants the culpability. I also don't think he cares. Elon Musk bought this presidency. He thinks he can do whatever he wants. But admitting that Elon Musk, who has access to sensitive government information, regardless of if it's military or not, saying that that guy clearly is corrupt, saying that that guy clearly has conflicts of interest, is insane. That's the point that we've tried to make, and he's not listening. But now he just says it. Donald Trump is admitting that it is pay to play in his administration. We know it's for the billionaires, by the billionaires, but Donald Trump actually just came out and said it. Like, I truly cannot believe that. But at this point, he doesn't seem to care. They're doing all the corruption out in public, like we can see right here.
A number of industries have come to you asking for exemptions on tariffs. Is that something that is under consideration by you?
Well, people are coming to me and talking about tariffs, and a lot of people are asking me if they could have exceptions. And once you do that for one, you have to do that for all. So, I mean, generally, I did something interestingly during 2 weeks ago. I gave the American car companies a break because it would have been unfair if I didn't. And everybody said, oh, he changed his mind on tariffs. I didn't change my mind. I helped our, sort of big three, big four. I helped some of the American companies. And instead of taking it properly, they said, oh, he changed it. I don't change.
This is one of the underrated parts. Underrated is a crazy way to phrase it. But really an underrated part of the tariffs is that Donald Trump is not only crashing our economy, but he's creating an avenue for bribery. If Donald Trump puts across-the-board tariffs, then business leaders can come to him and say, hey, Donald, if you take this tariff off of our product, off of our import, maybe, we can do something to help you out. That's what Donald Trump really wants, the favors. And CEOs, business leaders, are already coming to him with those favors. He did it with Apple. We saw it from Bezos. Like, this is what Donald Trump is all about. This is what he is focused on entirely. How to enrich himself and how to help out his billionaire buddies, while everyone else in his administration just plays dumb and plays along. And speaking of dumb, I know the Trump stuff was bad. But listen to J.D. Vance right here.
That's the other thing. Energy is going to be like it's never been before. Mr. Vice President is here. Do you have anything to say while you're here? He's a very good Vice President.
I'm just here to watch the show, sir. Okay. I think airplanes are pretty cool, so I wanted to check this out.
Cool. It is cool.
Has there ever been a bigger loser? And I'm going to teach you a little Gunzi slang. Right now, my generation, he has no aura. J.D. Vance, you have zero aura. You are-less J.D. Vance, like, this is the least cool guy I've ever seen. Oh, I think planes are cool. Shut up. No, nobody wants you there. Please. You should not be allowed in the Oval Office after what you did to President Zelensky. I cannot stand this guy. And so, because we had to listen to J.D. Vance, I think it's only fair to close this video with a guy who should have been Vice President Tim Walz.
And the sad part for me about this is Donald Trump doesn't know anything about education. This has been a long-time dream of the far right to crush the public education system, to take that money and transfer it to private schools that don't exist in a lot of areas or rural areas, and to undermine some of the missions of the Department of Ed, making sure everybody gets an education regardless of race, religion, or abilities. Students like my son who depend on IDEA and individual education plans to make sure that they're treated equally and get the best possible education they can. That's a hallmark of America. I think America's great contribution to the world is our public education system. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't care.
It is so important that we continue to fight back against this Trump administration. They want to battle things out in the court of public opinion before it actually gets to court. We have to make sure that we are winning both battles. There will eventually be legal justice, sure. It grinds pretty slowly, but if we do not fight back, it's not going to happen. So, we have to call them out every single day, and we're doing that on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you.